All right, guys. Conference Championship Sunday is over. We got two pretty good games, and we have our Super Bowl matchup. And I don't know how Seahawks fans really feel about this overall, obviously. I made the video this morning, and it seemed like there was a pretty decent split of Seahawks fans who wanted the Rams to win and Seahawks fans who wanted the 49ers to win, which that makes sense, right? Like I said, it's probably all about at what point you became a big time Seahawks fan, which team was a bigger foe for us, which team was a bigger rival for us. But Bengals, Rams in the Super Bowl, and it probably won't be the most fun that Seahawks fans have ever had watching a Super Bowl. We've got a division rival on one side, and on the other side, I think the Bengals are a fun team to root for because they haven't been there before. Well, I mean, they haven't been there since I've been alive. They haven't been there since I was born. And they haven't really done anything over the last 30 years of note whatsoever. So, Bengals are a fun team to root for, but nevertheless, if this Super Bowl goes the way I think a lot of people are going to predict that it goes, yeah, we're not going to be having a fun Super Bowl Sunday. So, I'm looking at these two teams that have made it, and I just ask myself, what can we as Seahawks fans, what can the Seahawks learn from this? I just watched the 49ers Rams game. It ended like right before I started this video, so still kind of processing the fact that the Rams managed to get to the Super Bowl, but it has happened, and now all we can do as fans is pick up the pieces, try to figure out what they did right and what we did wrong and where we go from here. So, what can we as an organization learn about what we need to do based off these these results? So, I can't help but notice, starting with this AFC title game, a couple of things. The first thing that I can't help but notice is that Trey Flowers had a non-trivial role on that Bengals defense during that playoff run. I know he doesn't play every snap, but if you're a Seahawks fan, you probably had the same thought that I did too. A lot of Seahawks fans in my Discord were saying the same thing. Hey, there's Trey Flowers out there. He jumps out of Seattle. We finish in the basement. He goes to Cincinnati, and now he's in the damn Super Bowl, place we haven't been in 7 years. So all the people who were making Trey Flowers everything his fault, everybody who was just going after him week after week after week, like, how do you feel now? And if you look at the way the Bengals use Trey Flowers, if you look at the way they utilize him, they play him to his strengths. They allow him to play defense against tight ends. They kind of use him as like a bigger cornerback. They use him as somebody who generally is responsible for covering the opposing team's tight end. He doesn't seem to cover receivers often as much, where his assets, his strengths are put on display and his weaknesses are diminished. So you can see how with a competent coaching staff that doesn't try to force players into their vision of what they think the player should do and what they want, they put the player in a position to succeed. And Trey Flowers was part of a defense that held the Kansas City Chiefs to 24 points, including an almost scoreless second half, and get to the Super Bowl. And I'm not going to pretend like he's their best player or even their fourth best player on defense, but he had his role to play. He played it well. And if you are one of those Seahawks fans who tried to put everything on Trey Flowers over these last 2 years, I would say, I hope you're looking at that and going, maybe it's not as simple as I was thinking. Maybe me constantly going after this one particular player to the point where he actually claps back at us on Twitter after the Bengals won last week. Maybe you can learn something from that. That's what I would say about that. And I would also hope that you learned that just because a team has a bad offensive line, just because a team isn't doing a great job protecting their quarterback, doesn't mean that team can't win. And it doesn't mean that quarterback can't find a way to make plays to help their team win the game, because that Bengals offensive line, Joe Burrow would kill to have Wilson's current offensive line. Now, it was better in this game. It was. Some of that probably because the Chiefs' pass rush, it's not great. But the Bengals' current offensive line is much worse than what the Seahawks have right now. And Joe Burrow, who got sacked 9 times last week against the Titans, still finds a way to gut it out, still finds a way to make plays. He made some plays today where he evades pressure, gets away from the sack, and still manages to make positive yards down the field. So, for those of you out there who rush to make excuses for Russell Wilson every time things don't go well for him, just look at what Joe Burrow can do with an offensive line that is basically out of a Tom Cable wet dream. Yeah, Tom Cable wishes he could coach an offensive line like that in the NFL. He would love that. So, look, we're going into this offseason. We got to build this offensive line. I agree. And I'll say a lot more about that in the future. But understand that Joe Burrow's offensive line, the line that he has protecting him this season, it's as bad as the Tom Cable Seahawks offensive lines. They barely have an offensive line. And they are finding a way to win games, to win playoff games, to win the division, and now they're in the Super Bowl. So, to those of you out there who rush to defend Wilson, it's the offensive line, there are things you can do. And that goes for the offensive scheme as well, by the way. But I think that's what we're gravitating towards. It's going to be on the players to make it work. So, hopefully, watching that AFC title game, some of you guys were able to notice some of those things. But to me, the biggest thing that Seahawks fans should have really learned from this weekend of football action is being aggressive pays off, going all in works, and just hanging back passively and building a team that wins 10 games a year for 10 straight years or whatever. It's not that ain't it. It's not it. So the Rams have now won 3 playoff games, and they are in the Super Bowl, and they're going to be favored to win the Super Bowl in a couple weeks, almost certainly. And they have done it on the backs of players that they decided to aggressively pursue. Guys like Matthew Stafford, who they traded 2 first-round picks for, because they went, you know what? Goff is good enough to get us to the playoffs. Goff is good enough to win playoff games. But Stafford could actually win us a Super Bowl. So screw what we have to give up. Let's give it up, get him in here. Stafford has played 3 solid playoff games and been one of the driving forces behind the Rams winning. Because of guys like Von Miller. I saw Von Miller making plays today. I've seen him making plays throughout this postseason. That's a guy they traded for midseason. They didn't need to do that. But they decided, you know what, our pass rush is really good. Let's be better. Let's get a Von Miller. It's going to be expensive. We're going to give up whatever is left of our measly draft capital. But so what? We're trying to win a Super Bowl right now. It's worth it. And I see Von Miller out there helping that team win, helping them get to the Super Bowl. And Odell Beckham Jr., who had a monster game today, 110 plus yards. Who would be out there right now without Odell in the fold if Robert Woods had gotten hurt? Exactly. So the Rams decided to be aggressive. They went all in. They decided to hell with 2023, 2024, 2025. Yeah, we're going to pay for it, but you know what? If we win a Super Bowl this year, our fans are going to be okay with that. They're going to understand. Our fans are going to be smart enough to realize that we sold the future for the present, and they are now one football game away, one win away, one 60-minute session of football away from having it pay off. So looking at this Seahawks team that went into this season and decided, we don't need that $13 million. We don't need to spend that $13 million. We're just going to sit on it because we'll see if our guys are good enough. We'll see if the guys we have can save this season. Yeah, okay. And to know that they also left over $10 million on the table and not restructuring Wilson. They just went, we've given him enough. We have enough. Like, we should be okay. Maybe we'll make the playoffs. Maybe we'll backdoor into a wild card. I hope this is a learning lesson for you all, because the Rams have decided that the future is now. And they're the team that I'm watching right now on TV over here, holding a big, shiny trophy in their hands and about to play a game for an even bigger and even shinier trophy. So going all in can work. You just have to get the right guys, and you have to have the right core, and you have to have the right coaches. So I don't want to hear anything from this team, and I don't want to hear anything from some of these fans going forward. This team has now gotten twice to the Super Bowl in the last 5 years. 4 years actually, a place the Seahawks have not come close to in 7 years. So don't tell me it doesn't work. And don't tell me that you as a fan wouldn't be thrilled to watch the Seahawks in the Super Bowl in 2 weeks, knowing that our future had been mortgaged for it. I would certainly rather have a mortgaged future in a team in the Super Bowl right now than a team on the couch but still has their options open going forward. So that, to me, is the major lesson from today. Be aggressive. Push your chips in. Don't waste time. And if you're not going to go all in, then you go all out. You don't sign anybody. You let everybody go. You trade every asset you have, except for the really young guys and really undervalued guys, and you start over. One of the two. But with the way things are right now, I think you got to push your chips in. So, hey, that's what I learned this weekend. How about you? Peace out. Go Hawks. See you guys in stream later.